How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sidelined. I'm Brooke 𝗬 𝗟𝗀. That is my girl, 𝗵anie 𝗬𝗋𝗠𝗋, aka Dani K. Dani, it's great to see you.
It's good to see you too, Brooke. I'm excited for another fun week of podcasting with you. It's been a slow sports week.
It has been a very slow sports week, but we have a good episode coming. We have a special guest coming on in just a little bit. But before we do, let's talk a little tennis. We don't talk enough tennis here on the show, and it has to do with the number one men's player in the world, in Jannick Sinner. This is crazy because he is now serving a 3-month ban due to doping. This is something that's kind of been going on for a while here, but the 3-month sentence, Dani, tell us more about this and how did we get here?
Yeah, he tested positive last year, and it was something that actually they didn't even have to really report, because when he tested positive for his banned substance, he did the due diligence immediately and had the team in place to be able to find out where exactly that substance came into contact with him. Now, we're talking about a substance that's 1/50th of a grain of salt. So it is so small. And they were able to pinpoint exactly where it had happened. And because of that, no suspension was given. But once that came out, there were a lot of people that were very upset about that, given that he's the number one player in the world. They thought that he was given preferential treatment because there's been players that have been banned for years because of testing positive for banned substances, or at least suspended for years. And that wasn't the case for him. So this governing body called 𝗦cie appealed this decision. And we've just been waiting for them to come to an agreement, a decision. We didn't know if we would see Jannick Sinner be suspended for a year, 2 years, 6 months. And so now it's come out that he will be suspended for 3 months. I do think it's very fair, especially because no one has argued the fact, at least the people, naysayers will argue this fact, but at least the people in charge have said that Jannick Sinner unknowingly had this substance near him. It was no ill intent. This was not something he did on purpose. It's such a small, minuscule amount. So common sense would lead you to believe that if he was doping in order for some sort of athletic gain, he would do more than that. But it was such a small substance. And the way that it came to be, this is crazy, Brooke.
No,
his athletic trainer had a cut on his hand, or cut on somewhere on his body. I believe it was his hand. Used a medicine that's an over-the-counter medicine in Italy, and that medicine has this banned substance in it, and he used it on himself, the trainer.
What?
Then massaged Jannick Sinner's leg, and that rubbed off into one of his cuts on Jannick Sinner's leg. And that is what has led to the positive test. So all of this craziness is because his trainer, the negligence on his trainer using a banned product.
I'm speechless right now, because you started off saying less than a grain of salt. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy in itself. But the fact that it transferred that way, an ointment that his trainer was using, put on his leg, then it touched Jannick, that's insane. And to your point, if he was going to cheat, he would be doing cheat better. You know what I mean? What is that going to do as far as his performance goes? But it makes you wonder, because if he wasn't the number one player in the world, would there be as much outcry?
I don't think so. I think the people that are upset about it are the people that have some sort of tie to those that have been suspended for longer. But each case is different, case by case, if you are reading the facts. The one thing that I can say, with Jannick Sinner being the best player in the world, he has a ton of money and unlimited resources and can hire the best team to be able to fight on his behalf. And that's kind of like what we see in the regular modern business world, right? If you have the money and you have the resources to have the best people involved on your team to get you out of trouble, that's exactly what's employing now. He's such a nice guy. He's such a sweetheart. When you're talking, he's so down to earth. But in the locker room, I am curious, when he is allowed to come back, if people are going to treat him any differently. I'm curious to see how all of that shakes out. But that is the tea and the drama going around in the tennis space.
Well, tennis is better when Jannick is on the court. And so, right now he's suspended until May. So that does give him an opportunity to still play in some of the big Grand Slams. Yeah.
Yes, we were initially curious to see if he would be able to play in at least Roland Garros and Wimbledon since they're right next to one another. And this actually ban works out to where he's still he's suspended for 3 months because technically that trainer was on his team. So he's in charge of who he employs. So that's the responsibility that he takes for that. So the 3 months were given for that, not because anyone thinks that he's at fault. So the 3 months allows him to still play at the slams. I think it's very fair. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I personally think that it's very fair based off the facts given and the fact that it seems that he did not do this on purpose and it wasn't for an athletic gain. So we will still see Jannick Sinner in the slams, which is very exciting. But yes, obviously a very slow sports week if we're leading with tennis here. But
tennis tea is good. Tennis talk. I'm glad we're working in some tennis talk, Dani.
So am I, because the tennis is definitely fun. But we have a super fun show. We actually have our very first guest on today, which is super exciting. She's a sports broadcaster who is equally as beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside, and you're going to see it in a second. She's absolutely stunning. You may have seen her anchoring Sports Center on ESPN or as a part of the broadcast team on ABC's The Bachelor and The Bachelor Winter Games. She's a former college athlete because she swam at the University of Texas before transferring, getting her degree at USC, University of Southern California. She comes from a super athletic family. She has brothers in baseball. She has one brother that played quarterback in college, a younger sister that played volleyball in college. And if that wasn't enough sports ties, she also married an NBA player in Frank Kaminsky in 2023, who's from Chicago, by the way. So very exciting. She does it all. She's one of the sweetest people on earth. Please welcome to Sidelined the very lovely Ashley Brewer. Ashley, it's so good to see you.
Yay. I can't believe I'm your first guest. You guys, that's huge. Thank you. I'm so excited to see you both.
Well, going through the introduction, I mean, it makes sense why you're our first guest here, Ashley. We're so excited to have you on. Where are you right now? Where are you coming to us from?
I am in Phoenix. My husband and I moved August of last year. We had been living in LA on and off me for the last 15 or so years. I had a brief stint in Bristol, Connecticut, and lived a few other places briefly, but I was a total beach girl, LA girl. But we decided we want to start a family soon and kind of just slow down. And Phoenix is the perfect place for us. Frank played for the Suns for a long time, and I grew up here. So we both love it and we're so happy. So yeah, we're in Scottsdale and it's awesome.
Well, Brooke is about to head that way as the new White Sox reporter. She's headed down to spring training. I know you love baseball. Your brother, I believe, played Major League Baseball. Am I right?
He did. Yeah. He played for the Diamondbacks, which was so cool because we grew up, born and raised Phoenix, Arizona, and grew up going to those games. We had season tickets. And yeah, my brother was a relief pitcher for the Diamondbacks. He was kind of up and down from that AAA up to the big leagues on and off. But it was such a special time in our lives when we got to watch him play at Chase Field. It was so cool. So baseball has always been my biggest favorite sport. Always, that's the sport that I grew up learning the language of and talking with my family because we were such a baseball family. So I always say my love for baseball is what got me into sports broadcasting.
Oh, that's awesome. Wait, so are you a Dodgers fan or are you a Diamondbacks? Or I know Frank is from Chicago area. So
yes, it's hard because childhood was Diamondbacks. And then I moved to Los Angeles, started covering the Dodgers. And you understand when you get into this career, it's so much about the people. So when I got to meet Dave Roberts and Clayton Kershaw and Justin Turner and some of those great Dodger players that I really got to know, and I was in the clubhouse so often, I found myself starting to root for the Dodgers and becoming like a diehard Dodger fan while I worked and lived in LA. And so I love the Dodgers. I love the Diamondbacks. We'll always have a special place in my heart for both of them. But I married the most diehard psycho White Sox fan. So for the past 2 years of being married, we watch every game. Then it gets to a point, I would say about
every game last year, Ashley?
It hit a point in July where that's where the viewership starts to go down a little bit because he gets so frustrated. But he has like a White Sox group chat that he talks in all day, every day. I'm always like, who are you talking to on your phone right now? And it's his White Sox chat because even in the off season, we're talking about something. But yeah, so I have kind of been adopted into this White Sox fandom. I've been to a couple of games in Chicago and had so much fun, but his family is all Southsiders. They're all still in Chicago. And so they've been interesting to root for. I really want them to do well, but we might have to wait a few years for that to happen, but we'll see.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Listen, we appreciate the fans that are staying by the White Sox even through the rough times, and we feel like we can only go up from here. So, I mean, there's a lot of new faces that are on the team. Is there anybody that really excites him that he talks about with some of the new guys?
I've got to be honest, no, because I'm always checking in with him. I'm like, so like, did the White Sox do anything? He's like, no, we haven't done anything notable, nothing exciting. But what he is really excited about is that he says we have the best farm system in minor league baseball. So
Brooke says that all the time too. So
it's gonna happen. So it's just a matter of time when it happens. So I feel like in 5 to 10 years, we're gonna be like the coolest sports fans celebrating all the time. But we're just kind of hunkering down and sticking with him while things are down right now. But he's really excited about some of the young prospects. So
Brooke, you say that all the time as well. So I feel like she's just echoing your sentiment there, which is really cool. I feel like I'm very lucky and our listeners are going to get to be very lucky because the two of you have a very similar story in the sense that you both have married an athlete. And so I have to take this opportunity to talk all things marriage, relationships, what that's like with an athlete, all of those things. Ashley, I have known you for quite a few years, but even I haven't gotten to catch up with you too much about married life. So I am curious, what's the biggest surprise about married life so far?
Oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. I always say I actually regret not getting married sooner. And I have known Frank as a friend since 2018. We met 2017, 2018. And at first we just became really good friends. And, you know, we were busy and just kind of like friend zoned him. And we always kept in touch and we dated other people. And I'm like, my one regret in life is that I didn't lock Frank down when I first met him and get married to him back in 2018. And, you know, luckily, I think we did a lot of growing up in that time before we ended up really started dating. But the biggest surprise, I think, is just people always say like the first year of marriage is so hard and, you know, you're fighting and, you know, it's a lot of change. It has been like the easiest, greatest time ever. It has not been a challenge. So when people say that, I'm like, should we be fighting? Like, do we have something? It's kind of weird, but I think Frank and I attribute it to the years of friendship we had before we started dating, that we just got along so well and we really got to know each other. Like he was one of my closest guy friends before we started dating. So he knew me, you know, like my girlfriends know me, which is really cool. And so I think now that's made marriage a lot easier, that we just really enjoy spending time together. We're interested in a lot of the same things. And so, I just love being married. It's the best thing. Yeah. I recommend it to all my friends. Like, I'm like, get married. Like, don't put it off. Like, don't wait. Like, just go do it.
Actually, I'm trying. Okay. My fingers are crossed in all the areas, but dating
is so hard these days. Like,
it's impossible.
Yeah. And Ashley, I was kind of reading up on y'all's story. Like he slid into your DMs. Is that how he kind of made his new? Jake did that to me too. And so, I mean, especially in the world of dating now, and Jake was so normal about it. I think it was just like, hey, how are you? And I was like,
that's
you know what?
Frank said.
This guy seems like a normal guy. And you know what? I'm going to give him a shot.
What was always
Frank's first line to you?
It was like, hey, what's up? Like it was just, it was so normal and like not creepy and not too forward. And you know, you're used to, especially being on TV, as you girls know, is that Frank, how he found me was that he saw me on TV when he was in LA and then followed me from there. And I never followed him back. I was like, I'm not dating a basketball player. I'm not even going to talk to, no. Just their reputation and, you know, things you hear over the years and things from covering basketball players. But I left him on red for a good 6 months. And then we both were in New York City at the same time. And he messaged me again. I was at a hockey game in New York and he was like, hey, I play in Madison Square Garden tomorrow. Would you like to come? And finally I responded and I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I'd love to go. Like, me and my girlfriend went to a Knicks game and had a blast and got to see him. And then I met him. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that is the most normal person I've ever met. You know, in the world of sports, so many of those guys have egos and just let that world consume them. And Frank is like the most unaffected person by all of that. And that's really what I fell in love with, you know, immediately.
That was, oh, I love that. And that was something with Jake, like I was asking around and, you know, I was like, so what do you hear? You know, what are you hearing about? Or what can you tell me about Jake? And I heard nothing but great things. And I was like, okay, that's the first green flag. And I've heard nothing but great things about Frank, like just, you know, in the world of sports, everybody just talks about how kind he is. But I mean, how have you been able to like balance, you know, being in broadcasting, but also married to a professional athlete? Because that's a job in itself.
Yes, it was really, really tough. And I'm a big believer that everything happens for God's plan, and that, you know, things in my career happened the way they did for the good of our future together. And so I got laid off a week before our wedding. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I now see that that was one of the greatest blessings God ever gave to me, because it allowed me to have such a wonderful and healthy marriage. And I've gotten to really enjoy this part of my life. And if I had still been working at the speed I was working at before, it would not have been the same experience. But that the last couple years at ESPN, I was working SportsCenter, and that is a job that is 24/7, 7 days a week. Even if you're not in studio, you're doing something for the show, or you're in some way consumed by it. And it was really difficult on me. Frank was at the time playing, the first year we were dating, he was in Phoenix. The second year he was in Atlanta. And that Atlanta year was really tough. Not so much on us because, you know, I think he has always supported what I have done in my career. And he was always, you know, oh, you can't come this weekend? Okay, no big deal. See you the next weekend. But it was hard on me. I was exhausted. I was doing the late night show. I was just worn out from work in general. And then flying to be with him on the 2, maybe 3 days off I would get at a time, all the way to Atlanta and then all the way back. And sometimes I'd come home on the day we had a show, and, you know, you're tired and flying takes it out of you. It was really tough and really challenging. And so, like I said, I got laid off the week before we got married, and we didn't know what was going to happen that next year with him being a free agent. And it ended up being such a blessing that an NBA offer never came for him, and we got an offer to go to Europe. And we were like, okay, maybe I take a little time off work. I was still getting paid by ESPN through the end of my contract. So it was kind of the perfect storm that, like, all right, I don't have to be here in LA for any reason. Let's go to Europe. And our first year of marriage was exploring the world and traveling and getting to be together 24/7. You know, I think we really just got to be alone and spend time together and sit on the couch. And we were on the other side of the globe. You know, it was really cool to kind of be able to enjoy that together. And so I'm grateful for everything and the way it's happened.
I'm so excited to ask you about Europe because, you know, with my tennis travel, I want to hear all about the basketball side of things in Europe. But before I do want to circle back to something that both you and Brooke did. And I think it's a bigger message, especially for women. You know, every single time I've ever said I've worked in sports broadcasting, it immediately is, who's your husband? Who's your boyfriend? Who are you dating in the sports world for you to have gotten your job? And immediately your gut reaction is you want to defend yourself and you want to say, hey, I didn't get this job because of a guy. I got this job because I know what I'm talking about and worked really stinking hard to get here. And for some reason, we could carry around some ounce of shame that you fall in love with an athlete, but then again, people fall in love in the workplace constantly. And these are
right.
both of you found your partners through different avenues. And it wasn't like you were covering that person, covering that team. So there's no journalistic integrity being questioned there whatsoever. Yet both of you made the decision to kind of keep it under wraps before coming public, whether it was with an engagement. In Brooke's scenario, I don't remember the exact time you went public with Frank, Ashley. But
I took a while, yeah.
The decision-making behind that, the balancing of all of that, how was that for you, Ash?
Yeah. I always said too, like coming into this, I never had a problem when I would see other girls dating athletes. I knew that's not what I was there for and what I got into it for. I was an athlete myself. So naturally in college, I would go out with the other athletes. We all hung out together. That's the only thing I knew. I always felt like an athletic girl. So why would I just wasn't attracted to guys that weren't athletic. But then once I got in the business, I kind of felt the pressure like you talked about of, oh no, I can't do that. I'll be looked at as this is the only reason why I'm here. Or, that's why, what I came looking for, when it was never that. But naturally, like you said, it's your workplace. It's the people you meet. It's the people you're around. I was especially at 𝗵𝗍7, I was covering local teams. I was very careful to kind of keep my distance with that. Never, and I believe the way you present yourself, sometimes the way you dress, you can, I think, carry yourself in a way that lets people know, hey, I'm not here for that. I'm not trying to just get a boyfriend and get on my way out. No, I wanted to work as long as I possibly could. And I was really grateful I met Frank, and Frank sought me out through that world, but he wanted someone too that got what he did and understood his world. And so I don't think a lot of other women would have understood kind of what the shoes that he was in. So I think we both mutually were great for each other. I do think, and I'm interested, Brooke, to hear how your experience has been. But I do think it hurt me. I do think, especially when I was at ESPN, there were a few instances where bosses were not happy. I got reported to HR the day I got engaged. I think it depends where you work and the situation, I guess. Me being a SportsCenter anchor, I did do NBA highlights. And maybe for some people, I knew there were some bosses that felt that was a conflict of interest. And then I had people that were so happy for me and didn't care. And like I said, I tried to never be super loud with it. I didn't post him all the time. I think I may have posted him like once before we got married. And yeah, I think some people are comfortable with it. I think there's a lot of people, the old school mentality, that we're not happy about it. So I'm interested if, Brooke, you've had any pushback.
No, and I appreciate you sharing your side, because I think there has been a negative, association with women in sports, and that you have to stay clear, gosh forbid that if you have the same interests as somebody that you marry. And I think, you grew up as an athlete, you grew up around the game. And I always say, like, Christmas, growing up in a baseball family, Christmas, the guys are breaking down their swings. Like, I'm just used to, just being in that lifestyle. And so just as much as people, marry, usually if they're going to come from a military family, they tend to marry people that are in the military or the entertainment industry. It's just because it's what and it's what I'm sure you and Frank, you talk about, it's just easy for you to talk about sports. So, and that's why we wanted to get into the sports industry, is because that's what, interests, that's what we're excited about. And that's what we like to talk about, as well as being on camera. And so, yeah, I'm a very private person, and I think it's been such a relief, like getting married and just being able to share, like, I'm in love and I'm so happy, and like being able to just share that, and that's something that I felt like I have always had to hold close to my heart and feel like I couldn't tell people. And it's just such a relief, and I'm getting like emotional thinking about it, but I think it just shows the pressure that's put on women in this industry, and that there are women, and you worked your butt off, and you still do, and everybody knows your character. And I work my heart, I work so hard, and Dani, you do too. And it's like, I want that to define me in this job, not who I choose to spend my life with. And so I hope that we are moving past that. And I hopefully it's the step in the right direction. But yeah, it's been tough. So it's nice just to have a support system and people to know that, like, that doesn't define you,
I can tell you guys, as someone that is a little bit more on the outskirts, since I am not married in that regard, but I can tell our listeners and anybody that's ever watched the two of you do your job, you guys are so professional. You are unbelievably well researched. You absolutely know what you're doing. So if anybody was to ever question that, They literally don't know sports themselves. It's a predetermined thought that is ancient. And I'm excited for both of you that you were able to find your match and find that common ground, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Is finding that commonality and understanding schedules. Because, okay, athletes may have a crazy life, but let me tell you what, a sports broadcaster does too. Okay. We learn a lot. Okay? I just got off air from being on air since 4 a.m. this morning. You know,
you look like a stunner.
You look perfect. But you messaged me so early and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if she's like working out this morning. It was like 5 a.m. I got a message from Dani and I was like, you go, girl. I respect so much the grind you're on. I know it's so hard, but
I appreciate it. But look, you got a chance to go overseas. And this is the type of fun stuff I want to dive into.
Yes.
Too, because if people are not familiar with how Europeans or just that other side of the world is on sports, and I need you to wake up because it's literally insane. Remind me, was Frank in Serbia, and what exactly was that atmosphere like? I do believe I saw fireworks in a gym.
Oh yeah, anything goes. Anything goes. We were in Belgrade, Serbia. When we got that offer, and it wasn't the first offer Frank got in Europe. I think he was a free agent right after our wedding. We kind of were like, okay, what the heck are we going to do? Ashley's getting paid out by ESPN. We don't need to stay in LA. Like, he's not getting the offers I think he thought he would. And so he turned down some really great places in Europe that I think we would have been excited about. But at that point, he wasn't ready to make that jump. We were getting blown up every second of our honeymoon. We were sitting in Bora Bora and his agents were just calling him and he's like, no, I don't want to go to Europe, blah, blah, blah. And then about a month later, we were like, maybe we should just do it. Let's go. And Serbia was the best offer we had at the time. And we were like, what the heck? We can, luckily they play in the EuroLeague, which has teams in Barcelona and Madrid, Lyon, France, now Paris. We were in Athens. We bounced around. We were in a new country every week, which was really special. Belgrade is, Serbia just in general is an interesting place. It wasn't for us. I say that. I don't want to get killed on social media, but it was rough. It was really difficult for us. It was just such a culture shock. They're so different. It's very far Eastern European. It was tough. And so we definitely struggled, but the games were amazing. He had the greatest fans, like you saw, like fireworks in arenas, people smoking cigarettes in arenas. Like it was, they light those blowtorch things. It was like, I always was kind of like, am I like good here? Am I safe? But ended up, they loved the team so much that they protect their people and everyone was really great to us. But yeah, it was a different world there. I mean, those people live and breathe whatever the sport or team of their kind of country is. And in Serbia, it's all basketball. So that was really special. Just like you see how some countries are obsessed and go psycho over soccer. That was Serbia. Basketball was Serbia soccer. And so it was outrageous. It was like nothing you've ever seen, but I'm so glad we did it. And we talk now, like, anything we go through, like Serbia was harder. Like, we're good. We've been through it all. We've been through a lot. And so anything now is kind of like a cakewalk compared to kind of what we had to go through. But we got to see the world and we got to go to the coolest places I will never go to again. Places you would never think to go to. And so Dani, I feel like you go to some really fabulous places. You're like in Monte Carlo. I did not get that.
I know she stayed at all these like beautiful hotels. She's like sipping an Aperol Spritz in the French Riviera. I'm like, what is that like?
Yes,
I know.
I slept on tennis. I don't think I really realized what the tennis world would bring. I will tell you that, yes, I agree with you. By the way, if you're watching the video portion of this, Benjamin has just now made himself a part of this podcast. So he's our honorary fourth member. But yeah, European travel has been so fun and to be able to go to all those places. So I totally get what you mean. But yes, there's definitely a culture shock for sure. I am curious, do you feel like that would be the less glamorous side of being with an athlete? Because I can tell you that most people would think, oh, it's all glamour, it's all good all the time. Or what would you say is probably one of the not so glamorous parts of being with an athlete?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got with Frank near the end of his career. When we first started dating, he was in the middle of about to have knee surgery. And that kind of, set him back from, I think, where he wanted. But he had already been in the NBA 7, 8 years. So I have been with Frank on the later half of his career. And that comes with so many challenges. And as much as you think the NBA lifestyle is glamorous, I mean, it's not easy, especially as a woman who had a big career at the time. And, at one point he got traded at the trade deadline and we had to live in a hotel in Houston. And that wasn't fun, eating room service 3 times a day. Some people think that sounds awesome, but for months on end, like it's not ideal.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the injuries are so hard and having to be, there through the disappointment and when things don't go your way and when you don't get an offer when you know you should and you see people playing that shouldn't be and making the decision to go uproot your life and go live in Europe and live in a dark, kind of scary place. It's kind of taking a leap of faith, and thankfully, we have the support of each other. And like I said, we're best friends. We always have been. And so we've gotten to make the best of it and enjoy it. But I truly believe that's why God brought us together at the time he did, because both of our careers haven't, gone the way I think we mapped them out and we would have thought. But we have the support of each other and the faith that we have. And that's been really what's kept us going. And I think so happy and joyful and positive through all of it.
I don't want to dive too much into this because this is not a political podcast whatsoever, but I correct me if I'm wrong. Were you in Israel hours before the first bomb went off?
We were there October 6th. Frank had a game in Tel Aviv. It was the first game of the season.
Oh my gosh.
And this was the tough part about the EuroLeague, or at least the team he played for. They did not want women around close to the team. Doesn't matter if you're married, doesn't matter if you have 5 kids. They're like, they wouldn't allow you to stay at the same hotel that the players stayed at. So when I would go travel with him in all these places, I was by myself 100% of the time. So the week leading up to his game in Tel Aviv, that first week of October, I was just walking around town by myself. And I kind of was like a little naive, I think, of kind of the danger of what was going on in the world. And I understood some of the conflict going on there because we had actually been offered to go play in Tel Aviv. And my first question was like, aren't they kind of like at odds with Palestine right now? And, we ended up not going there, which was a huge blessing, and going to Serbia instead. But the whole week leading up to that game, I was walking around Israel completely alone by myself, just touring, taking pictures, eating lunch and dinner by myself. And then I went to Frank's game and then took a cab by myself to the airport the next afternoon. And we left at about noon. And we got to Serbia later that night, went straight to bed, and woke up in the morning. And I checked my Twitter, and it was huge attack in Tel Aviv, where we were staying, the same exact area. And I remember at that point, it was like 2 people dead. And then I would refresh my Twitter, and it was like 9 people dead, 21 dead. And it just kept going and going and going. And of course, now turned into an actual war. And that was one moment where we sat there and we were like, thank God for redirecting us. 1, we almost moved there. We were thinking about going to play there. But 2, getting us out literally hours before that attack happened. So we are so grateful. One of those like near miss things that you just like can't even believe happened to you. We sat there like almost shaking the whole next day because we were like, we cannot believe we were there. But we are so grateful we were okay. And it's just heartbreaking.
Gosh, yes. And I mean, I can only imagine it puts things into perspective, right? Just, I mean, for where you are and, talking about you relying on your faith and just, I going back to that. I believe everything happens for a reason too. And just like, trusting God with the process. And there's a reason why you guys are where you are and, the season of your life, like everything happens for a reason.
It does. It does. So we're super grateful, and we just cling to that whenever things aren't going our way. And so we just take it day by day and do our best.
I think it's really it's really cool that the two of you have each other through all of that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the ups and the downs of a career, the ups and the downs of the scariness of living somewhere completely foreign to you, but getting to experience it all together is really special, I can imagine. And I think it's really exciting that you have that in your life. I do want to make it a little bit more fun here for both you and Brooke, because you both recently got married. I mean, Ashley, 2023 is not that long ago. So can we do a little fun thing for maybe potential brides coming out there, like a little quick rapid fire? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Why did so you guys got married in Cabo, right? So we were actually looking at why Cabo?
Okay. I have a funny kind of backstory to that. Sorry, I talk a lot more than I should. But when I first started dating Frank, I think he had an all-star break coming up. And I was like, let's go to Cabo. I have always, growing up on the West Coast, we always go to Cabo. It's like an hour-and-a-half flight, super easy. And Frank had a previous girlfriend at the time he had a really bad experience with in Cabo and had a terrible trip. And he said, I'm never going back to Cabo ever again. You could not pay me to go to Cabo. And I was always like, well, if you're going to date me, we're going to Cabo. That's my favorite vacation spot. I love it so much. And so took a little time and convincing, but we ended up going to Cabo for that all-star break. And then we went the next all-star break. And we both realized we love it here. And he totally flipped a 180 and changed his mind. And then the next time we were in Cabo, the third time, we were talking about engagement and where we would want to get married. And he was like, I think we should get married here. And that trip, we went to go look at places. We got married at Chileno Bay, which was so fabulous. And we loved it so much. But it was so funny. Now I joke with him. I'm like, oh, I'm never going back to Cabo. And we ended up getting married there. And it's our favorite place. And we just got back yesterday from Cabo. So we love it so much.
I love that.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys want to play?
Yeah.
You guys want to play a little game? Okay. I want to see what's one thing that went wrong at your wedding that you can laugh about now. Brooke, you got something?
I'm fresh off the wedding. I feel like everything went pretty smoothly. I would say. I think there was one point, especially, and I don't know if you felt this way, Ashley, being in broadcasting and going through a show, you're like, why is the music not playing? Why is this not cute? Or why is I felt like I was doing a show or something. And so I kept noticing, I was looking at my wedding planner. I'm like, okay, between cocktail hour and the reception, we use the same people. So obviously they had to stop in order to go in to play the music when people are going in. But I felt like what was only 2 minutes felt like 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody, they're probably freaking out. Why is the music not playing? And so I'm going to her and she's like, you need a drink. I'm like, you're probably right. Probably. I do. So that was the only thing that I noticed. And I'm sure there were a lot of things that probably went wrong, but I'm glad that, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Yes.
But I was super fortunate. As long as my people were there and they were having a good time, that's all that mattered. So I had a good experience.
That's
Ashley,
so funny.
What went wrong?
Mine is very similar to yours, and it's probably because of the way we are. But Frank and I, after the ceremony, we're taking pictures together on the beach, and the cocktail party was right next to us, but elevated, on a second story. And we start taking pictures, and I hear the band who was it was piano, violin, cello, very classic. I wanted classic, wedding music. Starts playing Metallica. And I am a huge rock fan. It's the only music I listen to. I hate rap. I don't listen to anything else. I love rock and I love Metallica. I've been to Metallica concerts 2-3 times. And so I hear this song, Nothing Else Matters. And I'm like, hold on. We're taking a picture. I'm like, wait, are they playing Metallica right now at my cocktail hour? So I get my wedding planner and I'm like, happy music, because it sounded like a funeral. It really did sound like a funeral. It was crazy. And I remember when I looked at the band, they sent us a huge list of all the songs they could play during the ceremony and whatever. And it was a ton of heavy metal. So I probably should have beforehand been hey, we're not doing metal at this wedding. You can come to my birthday party and we can do that. But it happened during my cocktail hour. And so they very quickly switched to the Beatles and better music that was more suited. But that honestly, I'm so grateful it wasn't worse than that because you said, most people have something go wrong, really wrong.
Right.
I'm really grateful. Mine was smooth sailing. And that's why we did Cabo. And I think you did a beach wedding as well. Just, you want people to enjoy a vacation and enjoy time together and just feel really relaxed. And so that's what it was for us.
Did the husbands have any input on the wedding? And if they did, what was something that was important to them? Ashley?
Yeah, Frank is actually like amazing. He is so involved in all of that stuff, which I told him, like, you don't, if you don't want to, you don't have to be. But he's like, no, I want to. He sat in like almost every Zoom call we had with our wedding planner. Like, he was in on it. He's so sweet. But I think it was just made him more excited about it. His requests, I'm trying to think. Hey, I mean, my husband's also outrageous. Like, I'm sitting next to his video game setup that he plays all day. Like, he's just a ridiculous person. He wanted to ride in on a white horse to the ceremony. I cut that down really quick. He also wanted to come in on a jet ski because we got married in front of the ocean. He wanted to come in on a jet ski in like a white tux, like Kenny Powers. I was like, that's not happening. So he has like a lot of off the wall ideas, but I would say he made the playlist. So like that was his kind of thing. And it ended up being fun. It was really inappropriate. I was a little embarrassed at times, but it was so much fun. Yeah. I think his aunt like walked out when the song 𝗏𝗶 played. It was like really, I think a lot of people were offended by some of the music because he likes all the rap stuff, but.
Oh my gosh.
It is hard because you're trying to appeal to like different crowds, right? Yes. So you're trying, that was hard, like trying to make a playlist. I did like because music is like my love language. I did like a little scan the QR code, like in the beginning when you got there, like in their welcome bag. And so it played like a bunch of music that you were going to hear, but like it started off, I think, with like 𝗏𝗶 and I'm like, maybe I should like do a build up. Like maybe I should
soften it.
Yeah. So like Grams, it's not like, what is this? What is this? Amazing. But yeah. So Jake helped me with that. That's so funny. I could see him like coming up on the jet ski. That's good. No crazy entrance recommendations, but Jake is like food is his thing. And so he took the, going down the tasting very seriously. And I'm sure you guys had the same thing where you had the folder and you had to like, take the notes and stuff. And so he was trying it and he, even went back for seconds and he like thought he was very thorough with, his food tasting. And I was like, you can have that. I'll have everything else, but like you take care of the food. But he tried to be involved in the Zooms. It was hard because we were planning, like he was in season. And so I'm trying not to bother him with all the wedding planning stuff during season. I'm like, you have other stuff to worry about. But it was nice, like once he got home in the off season to actually have him feel like be a part of the process. And I think he appreciated that too. But yeah the food was definitely his thing.
I love it.
Shout out to the guys. I also do believe, Ashley, I think, Brooke, am I correct? You're also sitting where Jake likes to game.
Yes, this is his. So now that he's gone, I actually have to push his like gaming laptop and everything in the corner. So.
Oh my gosh. I need to do that. I'm like, this is a guest room. I'm like, this is not your gaming room. But actually, Frank, we have a man cave that we built and it's like big 3 TVs on the wall. It's dark navy. It's super like Ralph Lauren. It's beautiful. And that was his gaming room. And he said, I have to move it downstairs because I want to be closer to you. I'm like, no, like, don't be closer to me. I don't need that because I'm always in the kitchen cooking or our living room is outside. But he wanted to be able to game and being in the room next door. And so that's where it's landed. I'm like, go back to your man cave. Get out of here.
I know. It's so funny. Like I come in and there's like 4 empty water bottles, like this size water bottles. And then he like walks out and he's like sweaty. I'm like, did you just like work out or something? He's like, no, I was playing Call of Duty. And I'm like, well, what's going on Call of Duty? Like, why are you sweating? He's like, I'm breaking a mental sweat. Like they take it so serious. It's so hilarious. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Ridiculous people.
My last wedding related question before we get into some fashion and some fun reality TV and then eventually we'll let Ashley go. It's just way too much fun here. Biggest piece of advice for the brides to be?
Do what you want.
Yes.
I would say do it your way. I feel like Frank and I really made it our own. And I didn't ask a ton of advice from other people, even like my mom and sister who are my best friends. I just really was like, I have a vision of what I wanted it to be, the kind of how many people and what the food was. And, you know, I hear so many stories of girlfriends who are like, oh, my mom planned the whole thing, or my mother-in-law had all this input. And Frank and I were really intentional with making it exactly how we wanted. And so I would just tell girls, like, this is your day. I understand you have to entertain and host so many people, you know, it being, you know, kind of a family event and friends and everyone's coming in to support you. But the actual ceremony, the food, the way it's all done, it really should be you, because it's your wedding, it's your relationship, and it's going to be your marriage.
Yeah, I second that. And I'm a very much a people pleaser. So the beginning of the process, like talking about doing a destination, I was looking at every single resort. My wedding planner was like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, it's so hard. So that's a big piece of advice. And then as you get closer to the wedding, somebody gave me the advice of just be a guest at your own wedding. And I felt like I did a really good job in the beginning, like the getting ready part of just kind of like taking it all in. And then I feel like it just goes by so fast once the reception starts. And like looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have savored like the first dance more and like these moments. And that's why we have a videographer. But yeah, that's my biggest advice. Just be a guest at your own wedding, or at least try to be.
I love that.
So fun. Look, the rest of us in this world are just trying to find their husbands. So, Ashley, you have a very unique career in which you've also gotten to dabble on a show that is literally based off of someone trying to find their husband, and that's The Bachelor. So, if you guys are Bachelor fans, you did the Bachelor Winter Games, which was really cool. And then you were on this season of The Bachelor, which is the reason why I'm bringing this up, because it just happened like 2 weeks ago. I wasn't watching this season. It's the only season I hadn't paid attention to, which is crazy. And then I saw you were on it. So then I had to backtrack and go and watch. How many hours goes into the 3 minutes that you're shown doing this basketball game on The Bachelor?
You know, I was really surprised. It was only a 4-hour shoot from the time I got there.
Oh.
And that's like from the time I got there to the time I left. I want to say I got there at like 1 o'clock and then we left around 5. So it was a really quick shoot, really quick day. I would say, honestly, we were probably on the basketball court, which was the date that I did, that we hosted. I did not date, but we were on the basketball court for like an hour, hour and a half, and that was it. So that's not like my other experiences. When we shot the Bachelor Winter Games, those were like 8 to 10 hour shoots. There was so much happening and they had to keep redoing stuff. And then they wanted to get certain people doing certain things or having different conversations or getting pulled aside. So that was a lot more intricate back in 2018 when we shot that. But this season, The Bachelor was like really quick in and out. Yeah.
What's more of a grind, especially like referring to the Winter Games, doing that in The Bachelor or, you know, covering a game and doing sports?
Definitely being at a game or even in studio and preparing. Because I think honestly, because just the pressure of it, I think, you know, all that goes in, we know like all the preparation that we put into our shows and everything we do to get ready just to make sure, like you said, we're well researched. We want to be professional. There's so much. And I think, you know, as women, we always are having to overcompensate our knowledge and how much we know and make sure we're doing things right. And so I think doing sports is a little tougher because The Bachelor is just so much fun. Like it's really one of those things where you just show up and you're like, what the heck are we doing? This is ridiculous. Like everyone's laughing at the same thing. We're all having so much fun and it's pre-taped. And so I think I would love to do pre-taped over live TV all day, any day.
Nice.
But yeah, but that's
so it's
the magic of TV.
Yeah, it's sounding to me like sports broadcasting is more of a reality show than the reality show that I can't stop watching.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'll tell you all my secrets later on when my NDA expires.
I want to hear it all. Can you at least tell us, did you like The Bachelor? Did you like the guy?
Oh my
I forget
gosh.
his name.
His name is Grant Ellis.
Grant.
He is wonderful. I was actually so impressed with him. You know, there's those people you meet on The Bachelor, you can see, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're total phony. Like they're only here because they want followers or they want to be on social. And he was so not like that. He was just a really down to earth, like wholesome, good guy, really cool, like played basketball, just like really nice. And he was really excited to be there. So I can tell he's in it. He's really enjoying it. I got through like half of last night's episode and then, I don't know what we did. Frank came home and we watched something else, but But I'm excited about this season, and I'm only watching because I really like him. Not even because I was on it, but I really enjoyed watching him.
Well, we've stolen so much of your time, and Brooke will kill me if we don't get to the fashion part of this situation because you are such a style icon. Your clothes always are amazing.
Always on point.
Really?
Yeah.
People say that, and I'm like, really? Oh my God, thank you. I always felt so like, I don't know. It's hard when you're on every day. It's hard to really feel like you're like looking cute or fresh. I got to the point where some days I was just like, I don't even care. Like, I don't know. But thank you.
No, you have the best sense of style. I'm always looking, I'm like, man, where'd she get that outfit and stuff? And so, no, it is hard.
Message me, I'll tell you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it is hard when you do a show every single day and you're like, there's some days where you're just not feeling it. And like, especially like when you have to do full hair and full makeup, like it's too much sometimes. But are there any like broadcasters or like celebrities that you look at that like for fashion inspiration?
No. I always would, especially when I was on ESPN, because I was working so much and on TV every day and always having to keep it up to date and fresh. I would always like try to find someone that I really like looked up to and that I could copy, but I never found anyone that I wanted to copy, which is really strange. I would look at people's stuff and I'm like, either that's too wild or that's too boring. Because in TV, I always felt I wanted to be classic, but I also still wanted to be young and youthful and fun. And so it's funny, I look back at like my career and like when I was in local TV and like the stuff I would wear, I'm like, oh my God, who let me wear that on TV? Like
what?
Oh
like
my
what?
God.
What's the regret?
I was wearing just some tacky, like cheap stuff. I don't know. Just like some Zara.
I was with you in LA while you were the main sports broadcaster at ABC7 in Los Angeles. You always look darling. So I don't really know what outfits you're talking about necessarily.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I feel that like your style evolves. I think just getting older, not even just in broadcasting, but in general. Like I look back, oh my gosh, I was looking back just even 5 years ago and I'm like, why was that okay? Like, what was I thinking? You know?
Where are we shopping though? Where's the places you would eventually find the outfits you liked?
Yes. Well, as you said, like as your style matures, and I always tried to be a little more conservative with my dressing and the way I looked. I never wanted to be that girl, like we've talked about, that's just there looking to hook up or looking to be sexy. I never wanted to be sexy. That's always been my goal. Is I don't like being called that. I don't like looking like that. I always just wanted to be more wholesome and more conservative if possible. And the hard part is I'm almost 6 feet tall. And so naturally things were always short on me. But I always tried to kind of cover up and not show off too much. But I would shop, two of my favorite brands are 𝗏 and Sandro. They're very kind of like European, but they're almost like Chanel vibes. They have beautiful buttons, a lot of beautiful tweed dresses. I did like near the end of my career, I was buying a lot of 𝗏 and Sandro. And then, 𝗏liche beard is always fabulous. It got so expensive. I was like shopping the other day in Nordstrom and I saw a blazer for like $800 and I was like, who is buying this anymore? Like absolutely not. Veronica,
Yeah.
who do you think you are? But Nordstrom will always have some great designers. 𝗏liche is a great one. Rag & Bone is always fun, but I just always tried to mix and match. I never wanted to buy like whole outfits together. Sometimes if you buy a suit or a dress, obviously it's one look, but I would try to combine different looks and make things a little bit more youthful because I think a lot of things are either geared towards super young, like the Revolve kind of looks, which I did a lot at ABC7, which I think just got a little bit cheap to me. And then some of the other ones, if you go to Saks or Neiman's, can be a little bit older and out of date. And so I think just finding like one top to mix with some slacks and just different kind of colors. And I like to keep it light and bright. I love fun colors. I like to keep things youthful and, try to kind of like almost mirror my personality too. But
it's so hard.
It's a struggle.
No, it's so hard because I going into my closet and, Jake, he's like, why do you have so many clothes? Can we get rid of these? And I'm like, well, the clothes that I would wear like outside of broadcasting are completely different and are a completely different fit than the clothes that I would wear, on camera, because it has to be a little bit more fitting. Or speaking of him, his ears are ringing. He's calling me. But yeah, it's so hard to find good broadcasting clothes.
Yes. And as your body changes too, there'd be some times where I'd put something on. I'm like, oh, that didn't fit like it used to. And, it's hard. And I think also just naturally being on TV, you're constantly aware of other people's opinions. So I didn't get it super much. I don't know. I didn't really care when I got to ESPN what anyone thought or said. I kind of just did my own thing. But when I was at ABC, I was getting so much feedback on what I would wear. I don't know if that's just
really
TV. I always say I got torn apart in local TV. And then when I got to ESPN, no one really bothered me. I don't know if it's, I still haven't figured out why that was, but just even on Twitter and social media, anything I did on local news was like, I got a ton of feedback, positive and negative. And a lot of it was clothes, appearance-based. It was a lot of clothes and appearance. Like I would say, have people say, I don't like your nail polish color, or your dress looks stupid, or your hair looks bad, or, that. I don't know if it's because people were more so watching, like it's an older crowd at local news, and they were, I can't figure it out. But when I got to ESPN, no one seemed to care. People were just kind of like, the feedback was a lot more positive when I was at ESPN than when I was in local, which is interesting.
So your fits were on point. So
thank you.
Your fits are great. And we're going to end. Can we end with our little game, Brooke?
Yes. Okay. Yay. Well, because you have great style. And so, there's a lot of do's and don'ts in the world of broadcast when it comes to fashion. So it's going to be called yes or a mess. So I'm going to tee up different things. And you got to tell me if it's a yes in broadcasting or a mess. Okay. On camera. Bold prints.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh,
statement earrings.
It's a mess. It's too much. Too much for me.
Sneakers with a suit.
Yes.
Dani, you could jump in too.
Sneakers with a dress.
No, that's a mess.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I'm here for that.
Especially in the studio.
How about monochrome outfits?
Oh, yes. I'm like wearing one right now. Like
I was going to say, I feel like you were the queen of some monochrome moments.
My favorite. Sure. I think it's so chic. Yes.
Well, this isn't an outfit, but what about a messy bun?
It's a mess. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Maybe because I can't do it.
I know it's so hard to find that balance. Oversized blazers.
I'm not a fan. It's a mess. Too boxy, too big. If you have a young, beautiful body that you work hard to keep in shape, like why cover it? So I don't like it.
A smoky eye.
It's not for me. I think on brunettes, it's beautiful, but blondes, I think less is more. So yeah.
I agree. And in fact, I was always against a red lip also.
Same,
I mean, that I'm getting my 2 cents in there, but a really blonde and a red lip.
It's crazy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I feel like you guys, y'all can pull off anything. So you guys Ashley, do you wear red lips?
Never. Oh my gosh. No, I'm like the most neutral person. Like my hair and makeup girls used to be like, can we please try something else today? Can we please do something different? I'm like, nope, give me the classic. We're doing the same. I looked the same on TV from like the start to end of my career. My hair was always down, loose wave, and just like neutral makeup.
Just keep it easy. Keep it simple, people.
Simple.
Okay. How about this? White top or all white?
Oh, yes. Beautiful.
I agree. I think that can really show off a good tan as well. Like Brooke, right now, you're tan. If you wore all white right now, at your wedding, like you look insane. Showing your midriff. What do you think about a crop top on air?
Oh my God, it's a mess. When I see girls, people are getting crazy now. I'm sorry to be like, I never want to be a hater, but the things I see people wearing, I'm like, I would have been fired in 2 days. Like, how do people get away with some of the stuff they're wearing? People are pushing it and it's not for me. Like I said, classic, conservative is best, in my opinion.
Okay, this one can go, I guess, for guys too. Sunglasses, indoors and outdoors.
No.
While on air.
Oh God.
While on air.
Never. No, never. It's a mess.
I agree. I don't even really like them on your head.
No one's that cool.
I remember I got yelled at one time for wearing sunglasses. This was when I first got into the industry, and they were like, don't ever do that again. But a lot of times you'll see guys, it's like a fashion, wearing the buffs and stuff, they'll wear it on camera. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. There's things a lot of men do that just they would not be acceptable for us. I think I think it's always a matter of respect. And so when I'm reporting or interviewing someone, it's always like, I want to be respectful. You look in your eyes, you have a conversation talking in their eyes. And I don't like hats either, but I'm like really old school. I'm very traditional.
My last one is natural curls. You know, those like, if you have curly natural hair, not these waves that all three of us are rocking right now. I'm talking the natural curl to a hair.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think it's so beautiful. Like Sage Steele has the best curls. And when we would be Sports Center together, I would just be like, oh, I just want cool hair like that. Mine's so plain. But I love seeing girls rock their natural curls. It's beautiful.
I'm so envious. I'm like, man, I wish my hair could do that. Right?
Same.
Pretty. Ash, we appreciate you hopping on and being our first guest. You have been absolutely amazing. I appreciate you sharing all that you have been up to. We've definitely missed you on our screens, but we love to follow you on Instagram and get to catch up with you. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, girls, so much. Thank you for having me. Like I said, being the first person, I'm so honored and so grateful you guys thought of me. And I hope I see you both in person soon. Would love to catch up and talk more because I can talk all day with you guys. You guys are awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah, I'll have to hit you up when I go out to Arizona.
Please do. Yes. I'll send you a message.
Well, a special thanks to Ashley, our first guest here on Sidelined. It was so nice to have her on and just share a little bit of her story. Dani K, it's always great to see you. I will see you next week. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Have a good week.